Is your vehicle stopping like it should? Does it squeal or grind when you brake? Don't miss out on summer brake deals at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
We're excited to announce that our very own podcasting platform, Zencastr, has become a new sponsor to the show. Check out the podcast discount link in our show notes and stay tuned for why we love using Zen for the podcast.
You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Archaeology Show. TAS goes behind the headlines to bring you the real stories about archaeology and the history around us. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Archaeology Show, episode 155.
On today's show, we talk about a wooden Roman figure found in the UK, ancient Arabian highways, and the Cape Cod National Seashore.
Let's dig a little deeper. Hey everybody, welcome to the show.
Hello.
So we missed an episode last week. Those of you that didn't see the show notes were probably like, why was I introducing Rachel onto the show and highlighting her in the icon? Because we played an episode from a while ago.
Was that like our first episode together,
No.
like officially?
It wasn't the first one, but it was pretty close.
Oh, okay.
I hadn't changed our icon to take April off of there and
right.
put you on.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to do that because, man, I got sick like the week before Christmas and I've had a persistent cough and stuff. I'm kind of on the upswing now.
Definitely.
Yeah, but then you got sick like last week.
Yeah.
And we tried to say, let's record today. But
my voice just like wasn't there.
Yeah.
I just couldn't.
Yeah, about all she could do was sing Smelly Cat. And you know what that
It was
means.
like I couldn't even do that. Like my voice was so
Yeah.
gone. I feel like there's a pretty good chance that it was a breakthrough COVID case because I am vaccinated and everything and boosted. But I don't know. I didn't get tested because the tests are so hard to get your hands on now, and it's easier to just assume you have it and stay quarantined, which is what we did.
I know. We're in an RV. We were at an event, but after you got sick, we stopped going to things.
Yeah,
and
just stayed
basically
inside.
isolated. So,
Yep.
I mean, you should get tested if you think you're gonna have to be around people.
Yeah.
You know? But also, you're still sick. Like, you don't want
Yeah.
to give people the flu.
Even if you don't have COVID.
Yeah.
So that was my thought. I was like, well, it doesn't really matter if I have COVID or not. I'm not that sick. I don't need to be worried right now. I just need to stay away from other people. So that was the approach I took. So, and it was fine. And now I'm totally better.
You know who didn't get tested?
Who?
This old Roman, and now he's petrified piece of wood.
Right. Okay. That's one way to introduce the story. Go on.
So we're going to talk about some news stories. And this first one, as I mentioned, is actually next week. We're also going to have a story from the HS2 dig, they call it, in the UK. Now, HS2 is a rail route that I want to take.
I know.
I love riding in trains.
Yes.
And it's going to go from London to Birmingham. I mean, that is like from the almost south to the almost north of the UK.
Yeah. It's like 150 miles long.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you have a rail that is that long, there's a lot of work that has to go in ahead of time before they can even start laying the rail.
Yeah.
The whatever they need for the railway.
Now, my question is, this is England. Like, everybody knows they have trains all over the place. Do they not have a route to Birmingham? Or is this a direct, like, high-speed rail? That's probably what the HS stands for.
I bet it is. It probably is a high speed. Yeah.
I had to basically say that out loud to realize what the hell I was talking about.
Yeah.
That's probably exactly what it is. It's probably very few, if not no. I wouldn't imagine no stops. They probably stop once or twice, but it's probably an express train straight to Birmingham. But anyway, I'm guessing on that. The point is, this is a CRM project. The article that we're linking to is from The Guardian, and it is called Exquisite, in quotes, Roman Figure Found on HS2 Dig in Buckinghamshire. Now, you can click in through here and there is an HS2 website because they have found, again, lots of stuff. And we're going to be talking about a Roman market town that they found next week, which is still pretty cool. So, but lots of things are coming out of this project. They've been digging, I think, since 2018 or 19 when the project kicked off. And now they're, pushing right through it. So this project actually has employed, I saw in one other article, like something like over 1,000 archaeologists at some point in time.
Yeah, that is so cool.
Yeah.
And I love that they have a website dedicated to the things that they're finding.
Yeah, because people want to know.
Yeah, people totally want to know. And like, there's no reason for archaeology to be shrouded in mystery. That's one of the things that kind of annoys me about CRM in this country is that it's always such a big secret.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a lot of politics going on in the background sometimes, like with the Native American tribes and various different places and things like that. So I would never want to like say that it shouldn't be a secret if it's something that is important to whatever tribes are involved.
Right.
However, it is really cool for people to know about the prehistory of the area that they live in. And people generally do want to know. So I love this website. You guys should definitely go check it out. We'll make sure and link to it. And there's just a whole bunch of different really cool things that they found. And there's some pictures you can check out too.
And the UK doesn't have to worry about tribes or anything like that because they kicked the Romans out a long time ago. So, you know, the Roman descendants in Italy are maybe, I don't know if they're concerned about this or not, but the UK is definitely not.
Definitely a different relationship between the people in their prehistory in Europe than it is in this country.
Right.
So.
All right. So as I said, this is, well, I don't know if I said this, but this is the biggest ever UK archaeological dig spanning the whole thing, which I was like, that's cute. We've been on pipelines that were like 1,500 miles long.
Right.
So, you know, but we have a lot more land here in the United States.
We do indeed. So, yeah.
The thing that they found in this particular article that they're talking about was found in a waterlogged ditch in Buckinghamshire. And I love all the shires, first off.
Is that like counties there? Is that how that works? Or
I think shire is more of a town. But that's weird. Actually, I read one, and I think it's the one from next week. It's in North Southamptonshire. I'm like, come on. But anyway.
There's a lot of directions and shires in that sentence. But
that's right.
I love it. That's awesome.
The figure they found is 67 centimeters tall, which is a little over 2 feet. And that's a figure carved from a single piece of wood. The preservation on it is, they're quoted as saying it's incredible, according to the archaeologist on site. And that's because the lack of oxygen in the ground where it was at helped preserve the rotting over many centuries. There's a lot of clay and stuff in England, so it holds on to moisture and prevents oxygen from getting in, basically. So that helps to preserve things.
And I imagine it being found in a waterlogged area means that it was even wetter than it normally is, which is what helped preserve it so well. You don't see that very often. Wood would fall into that like missing majority category that we've talked about before, because that kind of stuff just doesn't survive from a preservation perspective through time. So it's really cool that they found this.
Yeah, I don't think they talk in this article about when they found it and took it out of the ground, what they had to do to it, because things that are usually very waterlogged is once they're exposed to air, they start to go fast.
They can,
it'll start to dry out and fall apart.
Yep.
It's like shipwrecks and stuff. They have to do special things to the wood as they bring it up to basically keep it from just falling apart within days or weeks.
Yeah, totally. You have to it's like a slow drying out process, I think. Something like that. Yeah.
Jim Williams, the senior science advisor for Historic England, says it's a, quote, truly remarkable find, which brings us face to face with our past. It is always neat to find something that's got a carving or a bust or something like that that's a representation of a person back then. Although you always got to wonder, because if we were way into the future and we found, we were, gone completely and some other alien species came in and was like, what do these people look like? And the first thing they saw were Picasso paintings. They'd be like,
they might wonder.
Yeah, these guys were truly weird looking. But
that's true.
I always wonder if the person who did the thing in the past, and we're always like, oh, look, here's a representation of a person. Is that how embellished or curated is that? Like when we were at the Archaeology Museum in Italy, which is a lot of Pompeii stuff. Yeah. And you see the life size, greater than life size, marble statues and things like that of people, and they're just like their polished, chiseled faces. It's like the first century version of Photoshop, right?
Right.
Like these people were made to look pretty.
Yeah, they were made to be beautiful. I doubt
they all were so beautiful.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you do have to wonder that, but like with an artist, I feel like they're always going to be trying their best to make whatever they're making look beautiful. So sure, people might not have been that beautiful, but I'm okay with it being a
stylized representation.
Yeah, or like a perfect representation of what humans can look like.
The things like this from this period rarely survive. It's just organic objects. It has to be in really the right conditions for that to happen. This particular figure was carved wearing what looks like a knee-length tunic that seems to be gathered at the waist. Although, I mean, I'm looking at the picture of it. I'm like, how can you really tell that?
Well, I can see it. Waist. You can see like a line right around the waist, though, and just from my like clothing making knowledge, you would get a line in like a blousing like that where the top kind of blouses over the bottom.
Right.
You get that by having fabric gathered there. Now, whether it's two separate pieces or it's a belt that's doing that or whatever, like there's a bunch of different ways you can make that happen. But I think that's how they're interpreting that like line across the waist that sort of blouses a little bit.
Yeah.
He looks like he's got a little bit of a belly too.
You might.
When you look at him in a cross section.
I'm like, listen, if you're going to sculpt me, like trim me down.
Like trim me down, right? Make me look a little bit better. Come on. Maybe those knees should be a little less knobby if you're trying to make like a really perfect looking human.
Exactly.
Of course, this is wood. So what it looked like originally is not going to be necessarily what it looks like now.
Sure.
So, yeah.
And on his head, though, I like how they say he may be wearing a hat or just have styled hair. And I'm just like, I want a hat that looks like styled hair. So I don't have to do it.
Again, I think
I style my hair.
Well, not right now. That's for sure.
No.
No, I think that it's just hard to tell because, I mean, the preservation is great because we even have it at all. But it still is really hard to tell specifically what you're looking at. You know it's a human and you know it's a person and they're wearing clothes and they have a head, but like what is specifically happening with the hair or hat or whatever is hard to tell. Yeah.
His legs, however, are fairly well defined, as short as they are, since this guy's only 2 feet tall. And I'm wondering like what this thing was used for, but the arms below the elbows have degraded, and I would wonder, were they there to begin with? Like, what kind of thing is this? Did they break off somehow? Why would those pieces go away? Did they break off, and that's why this was maybe discarded and found where it was?
It is super weird. Like, why have a figure? Like, if it were fully complete all the way down to the feet, I'm guessing it would be like 2.5-ish, maybe to 3 feet at the most tall, right? So that's like a half size human.
Yeah.
So why? Like, why have it be that size, you know?
That's a good question. Yeah.
That's the kind of thing you'll never know the answer to, though, unfortunately.
Right. All right. Well, that's about all we know about this. Here's some cool information in this article about the HS2 project. It has unearthed via this project at least 60 separate sites. Now, that was as of January 13th writing of this article. But at least 60 separate sites by more than, as I said before, 1,000 archaeologists since 2018 when it started. They've found, history going back 10,000 years, before the Romans, Anglo-Saxons, before everybody, the prehistory of the UK, and they've found all kinds of stuff. This project is estimated at 45 billion British pounds, which is about $61.5 billion US dollars.
That's just for the archaeology part of it, or is it like the whole project?
I think that's the whole project.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the whole
still
project.
Like so much though.
Right.
It's really cool too because they have found so many different representations of different time periods. Like they've found medieval churches, and then they've also found, 4,000-year-old burial grounds and stuff like that. So just the wide range of different time periods that are represented. And of course it makes sense. They're traversing the entire country. So people were in different parts of the country of England at different times. So it just makes sense that they would be finding wildly different things from wildly different time periods, but super cool.
Speaking of time period, we didn't really mention the time period that it's in, and that's partly because they haven't really done a lot of dating yet. They're kind of basing the time period off some of the other artifacts.
Oh, the carved figure.
The carved figure itself.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're basing some of the time frame on this site on what other things they have found, but conveniently for them, so they don't have to actually damage this, a piece was broken off that they can attribute to this figure, and that will undergo analysis. Well, that will undergo radiocarbon dating at some point, and then the entire figure will have analysis and conservation at York Archaeology, which I believe York Archaeology is akin to like a CRM firm.
Oh, okay.
If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on that. But
I wonder if they can do some kind of dating with the tree ring stuff too. I mean, it is a piece of wood, right?
They have to cross section it though. I don't think they want to cut into it.
They don't want to do that. Yeah, true.
Because when you do tree ring dating, there's I've seen small bores where you basically bore into the tree, or you bore into the piece of wood that you're trying to look for. But you have to hope and maybe they can see this. I can't really tell by looking at this, but you'd have to really get a cross-section of all the rings in a way that you can actually measure them.
Yeah.
And then
you
match
probably
that up with a local tree ring database.
Yeah, you'd probably need something that tells you you're at the outer edge of it, and that might be kind of hard to tell. Now that I'm looking at these pictures, I'm like, how would you even know what was the edge of the tree that they used and what was the middle? Yeah, that would be hard.
Yeah. And what do we call the science of tree ring dating? Dendrochronology.
Dendrochronology.
There you go. So that's your $2 word for the day. Use that in Scrabble.
Right.
All right. Well, that's about it for this one. When we come back, we are going to we're going to go from our train. We're going to get off in London and we're going to take a superhighway all the way to Arabia and end up in an oasis. Back in a minute. Chris Webster here for the Archaeology Podcast Network. We strive for high quality interviews and content so you can find information on any topic in archaeology from around the world. One way we do that is by recording interviews with our hosts and guests located in many parts of the world all at once. We do that through the use of Zencastr. That's Zencastr. Zencastr allows us to record high-quality audio with no stress on the guest. Just send them a link to click on, and that's it. Zencastr does the rest. They even do automatic transcriptions. Check out the link in the show notes for 30% off your first 3 months, or go to zencastr.com and use the code TAS.
Save on O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner. Get 2 cans of O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner for just $8. Valid in-store only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
Welcome back to episode 155 of the Archaeology Show. And as mentioned, we are down in Arabia.
well, we aren't. But the story we're talking about is.
Exactly. All right. So this comes from phys.org, and the article's titled Archaeologists Discover Ancient Highways in Arabia. Archaeologists love ancient highways. Mm-hmm. Now, first off, when you click into this, you're going to see a picture, and it says keyhole-shaped tombs flanking a funerary avenue in the Al Hayat Oasis. Okay. Now, I know they just have to describe these shapes as keyhole-shaped. Yeah. But I highly doubt they had keyholes or keys. But they may have.
They might have, but they didn't necessarily have to look like this. It's just, it gives a shape to it, a description that modern people, us people, can understand. Right. Because they do kind of look like keyholes.
Or exclamation points.
Or exclamation points. I like exclamation point better. Let's call it that.
Yeah. So, anyway, these were discovered, these highways, I guess, were discovered by and researched by archaeologists from the University of Western Australia. And these were people who lived in northwest Arabia, basically, in the early to the middle Bronze Age, and they built these funerary avenues. Yeah. Okay. Now, these are long-distance corridors linking oases and pastures and things like that. So they had just common pathways that they traveled getting from one place to another. But they're also associated with these burial monuments.
So are they calling them funerary avenues because there are burials all along the roads, essentially?
No, I think the burials, from my reading of the article, are just at the oases.
Oh,
like they're associated with these oases. I'm like, where are you going to bury your dead? Where you get your water? But I don't know.
Oh, they didn't know any better. Yeah. I don't think they thought about the fact that body juices were decomposing into their water source potentially.
True. Now, one thing the article does say, though, is that, these oases and pastures and highways, for lack of a better way to say this, are bordered by thousands of elaborate burial monuments. So I'm not exactly sure.
When I read that, I interpreted it as they're all along the roads.
Yeah.
Which would be so interesting to me, because it's like, well, first of all, okay, you've got a relation that you need to bury. Mm-hmm. How do you choose where on the road said person gets buried? If it's just along a road, or like, how does that work? And what is the hierarchy? And it's very interesting to me to think that roadways were the burial area of choice. And why?
I think it just goes down to access. Like
Maybe,
you live in the desert, basically. Yeah. And you're not going to take some circuitous route for no reason to get somewhere. Mm-hmm. So you're just like, all the things you do are going to happen in certain areas, right? Including burying your dead. So I don't know. This does remind me of the Chacoan Road Network, which has been discussed pretty extensively. In fact, if you go to archpodnet.com/sitebites, one of the hosts of the Life in Ruins podcast, Carlton Gover, future Dr. Carlton Gover, he did a short series on Chaco Canyon in New Mexico. Yeah. And one of the things they talked about there was the Chacoan Road Network, which was basically a series of roads that head out from Chaco Canyon or to Chaco Canyon from outlying communities. Yeah, kind of like spokes on a wheel, basically. Kind of, yeah. So anyway, that just reminded me of that, because they really use that stuff. Kind of a similar environment, to be honest. Yeah, and the desert. Yeah. So back to the funerary keyholes or exclamation points, because I'm looking at the picture, and to kind of definitely go take a look at the article and look at the images, but I'll do my best to describe it here. It's basically a elongated triangle. Mm-hmm. Probably, what kind of triangle is that? Like a isosceles? I guess, is that right? Where it's longer. Equal, two angles are equal. Yeah, the two at the bottom are equal, and then the one at the top is like a skinnier angle. Wow, I'm real bad with math. It's been a long time since I took a math class. Indeed. Anyway, and then there's like a circle up at the top by the skinnier part of the triangle. And I'm guessing made out of rocks. It is what it looks like. It's rock created, moved rocks into place. And then, but I'm like, where's the burial part of it? Is it inside the triangle part? Is it in the circle part? Well, where is that? I feel like it's inside the circle part, only because there are some circles without triangles off to the left side of that image. There are, that's true. And they have something that looks like a little nipple in the circle. Like maybe that's where the burial part went. Yep. I mean, I'd want to be buried in the nipple. So anyway. Wow. But it's interesting. Yeah, we don't really have a lot of information related to this, and it doesn't really link to anything either. So yeah, I wonder if they have plans on doing more excavation of the actual burials themselves, or maybe not, because it depends on what the local people feel about disturbing, their ancestors or whatever. So right. One interesting thing too is that how old this is. Yeah. Right? Because these are populations living in this area built these about 4,500 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, that's a long time. That is a long time ago. Yeah, and it's telling archaeologists that they were a little more socially and economically connected to one another than previously thought. Yeah. Yeah, that totally makes sense, though, because that is an area where you do see the development of humans and people as groups and societies sooner or earlier than in other parts of the world. So it makes sense that that kind of interaction would be happening very early in that area of the world. Yeah, and I just said a few minutes ago that I didn't know if they'd published, but then I see my own note here that says that it was published in the journal The Holocene and by Dr. Matthew Dalton. Yep. He actually says that funerary avenues were the major highway networks of their day, and I guess they were. Yep. So how they found this stuff is they used satellite imagery and helicopter-backed aerial photography. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm not sure why they didn't just use drones, probably because of the long-distance nature of it. Yeah. But because helicopters are really expensive. Yes. So, but that's still pretty cool. Could be windy too. I mean, deserts can be so way too windy for drones sometimes. Yeah, that's true. They used ground survey and excavation for ground truthing the aerial finds. So just going down to see, if what they found was actually real. Oh, there you go. The highest concentrations of monuments were found near permanent water sources. Right. So I guess that does mean that probably they wanted to bury their dead near the water sources, and maybe they branched out from there as space sort of became a premium, probably. Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, and also, like, I don't know a whole lot about how geographically speaking or geologically speaking oases work, but aren't they not necessarily permanent? Like, they can dry up and then maybe a new one will pop up over here, and they're just sort of less permanent.
Like any water source, it's basically a spring, right? And that spring can dry up if the water table, for whatever reason, gets too low, or whatever. So
it makes me wonder if that's how we end up with this large network of roads, is they were going, one source would dry up and then another one would appear, and they were kind of changing. But I don't know if they would change that quickly enough for people to adapt and create new roads or whatever. So
I don't know. The directions that the avenues are going is one of the ways they could tell that these were basically used to travel between the major oases out there. They can just see, because I think they're probably indistinct in some cases, because they haven't been used in a long time.
Right.
So, but when you look at the direction of one and then you link it up with the direction coming from another oasis, you can tell that it's going there.
Yeah.
And then some of the lesser avenues, they fade into the landscape, suggesting they were just used to herd animals to nearby pastures during rain periods.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. So they were roads that were used for all kinds of different purposes and for accessing all different parts of their life, but they also happen to, bury people along them as well.
Yeah, and these roads, they're calling them roads, but really they were just probably well-worn pathways that they took all the time.
Yeah.
It's like any sort of game trail. I mean, I'm not equating them to animals, but I kind of am, because any animal or person or whatever is going to take the same path everywhere.
Yeah.
We've driven a lot of roads in Nevada, and to be honest, most of these roads are just dead straight, because why would you make corners if you don't have to?
Yeah, there's no need to.
Yeah. You're on a gravel road, you're headed to a location, and there's no reason for it to turn unless it's got to go around something.
I know. The longest road I've ever driven is Highway 50
Oh my God.
in Nevada. And like when you come out of Fallon, out of the like mountains in between Fallon and then Austin, it's just like the longest stretch of road you've ever seen in your life. You can literally see it for hundreds of miles.
Yeah, you're excited to go through mountain ranges because you get some corners and some hills, and then you come out and it's another 40-mile valley.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Which is beautiful in its own way, obviously. Yeah. I love the desert. But
indeed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have to say about this one. And we're going to go from here to something a little bit different. It's not really an archaeological project, but it's a historian that's diving deep into the history of Cape Cod. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
Back in a minute. You may have heard my pitch for membership. It's a great idea and really helps out. However, you can also support us by picking up a fun t-shirt, sticker, or something from a large selection of items from our TeePublic store. Head over to ArchPodNet.com/shop for a link. That's ArchPodNet.com/shop to pick up some fun swag and support the show.
Save on O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner. Get 2 cans of O'Reilly Brake Parts Cleaner for just $8. Valid in-store only at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
If you're a facilities manager at a warehouse and your HVAC system goes down, it can turn up the heat, literally. But don't sweat it, Grainger has you covered. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products for all your operations, including warehouse HVAC maintenance. And even better, they offer access to experts and fast delivery, so you and your warehouse can both keep your cool. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome back to the Archaeology Show, episode 155. This is our final article we'll discuss today, and it's from the Cape Cod Times, and it's entitled, Dig This, Historian Goes Deep into the Archaeology of Cape Cod.
Oh my God. Talk about, clickbait headlines.
Yeah.
That's all right, though.
Exactly. All right, so Cape Cod in the United States is lined with beaches and sand dunes, as capes on the eastern side of the United States are. Mm-hmm. Hold on a second. Where is Cape Cod? Is that like Massachusetts?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Oh, yeah, it is Massachusetts. Yeah. So that's, I mean, you're from the East Coast, so you have no excuse, actually.
What? Come on.
Yeah, I'm from Seattle, so.
We were probably like 20 minutes from here that time that we stayed on the border of.
Oh, yeah.
What was it? New Hampshire and Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Probably
not that far.
We've been pretty close to there. Yeah. We have no excuse for our lack of geography knowledge. Sorry.
I know. One of the cool things about this area, though, is first off, there's been, people there for well over 10,000 years.
Yeah, definitely.
And lots of different activity.
Yeah.
But after every storm, because it's so sandy out there, and you get this all up and down the East Coast, but after every storm and really kind of tidal action, you have a chance of something else being revealed from the past and just coming out of the sand. Now, storms have an ability to cover stuff up too,
yes,
and basically turn things around.
Yeah.
So,
and it's all kinds of things. It could be things that were deposited in the ocean, like a shipwreck that washed up on shore or something like that. But it can also be the remnants of a previous society. You know, it could be whole buildings that have been covered up, both historic and prehistoric. When you have a geological area that changes so quickly and easily and rapidly and didn't have modern techniques to stop it from eroding, because I'm sure they put a lot of effort into keeping the beach as stable as possible now, but 100 years ago or 500 years ago, nobody was trying to stabilize the beach. You couldn't. They didn't have the ability to. So like, you just have a lot of occupation that is gone, but it can be uncovered sometimes.
Yeah, indeed. The historian in question here is Bill Burke. He is the Cape Cod National Seashore historian, and he spent 30 years studying this area. That's a pretty cool job.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill Burke, if you're listening, we'd love to have you come on and talk about everything that you do, or if somebody knows him.
Yeah. One of the things that he talks about in this article, or that they, I guess, interview him for, is the Carnes site. It's called CARNS, and that's at a place called Coast Guard Beach in Eastham. I mentioned it's Eastham. And that's an example of some of the fleeting nature of the finds in Cape Cod. It was first seen in November of 1990 when a park ranger, or I guess a National Seashore ranger, noticed something spilling out from the sand. And they looked at it and said, hey, this is a active and ongoing threat from erosion. There's storms on the way. It was November after all, so a full-scale data recovery was started pretty quickly. And they also believed that the site contained cultural components of pretty great antiquity. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, they didn't really talk more about that because this article is really highlighting a talk that's happening later in January 2022.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to stream that or, what's going to happen. It might just be a local talk. Not really sure about that. But some of the things that Burke was saying in the article is Native American artifacts that date from the end of the early woodland period, so about 2,100 years ago, to the middle woodland period, about 1,100 years ago, have been found in that area. And I think he is kind of referring to that Carnes site, but either way, just the area in general. So lots of cool stuff. He also says that in total, in the collection that they have at the National Seashore, they must have a museum or something like that.
They do. It's the visitor center, the Pond Visitor Center. They have some of it on display there anyway. Well,
they've got 350 to 400,000 artifacts in their collection. Obviously, not all those are on display at any one time, but that's huge.
And it does seem like they run a huge range of time periods, like you said, from the early woodland all the way up to historic. Like some of the pictures that they're showing in the article are like clearly historic ceramic pieces and stuff like that. So I love that. I love that, if you just pay attention to what the sands and the beach and the ocean can uncover, then you can find out little pieces and little slices of the history of an area.
Yeah, if you happen to be listening to this in real time, then check out the Cape Cod Museum of Natural History's website. It's in it says Brewster. That is where Paul Zimmerman lives.
It is.
It's one of his houses, yeah. Anyway, it's at that natural history. It's at that museum in Brewster, and it's at 7 p.m. on January 26th, 2022. So if you happen to be near there, then go check it out. Otherwise, I don't know, like I said, if they're going to be streaming it or not. So
yeah,
that'd be pretty cool.
We're recording this just a few days before this happens, so you'd have to catch this podcast like within a couple days of it coming out. But it sounds like it would be a really, really cool talk to experience, and I'm sure they'll bring examples of artifacts and stuff for people to see too. It'd be really, really neat to see the history of the area as exposed by the ocean sands and storms and the beaches and stuff. Yeah,
I don't know if this is the Brewster that Paul lives in, because he's in New York, and I'm pretty sure this one's in Massachusetts, unless it's really close by. So
all that is very close up there, though. So who knows?
It is. Yeah, for those of us that spend a lot of time on the West Coast, the East Coast seems like a postage stamp, and you can just get to anywhere in 5 minutes.
I know, right?
So, except for traffic.
Like we went for a drive one afternoon when we were up there, and we were in like 4 different states.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's how it is.
Yep, felt like being in the UK. All right. So just some notes here from your local archaeologists. If you do happen to be walking on a seashore or a beach or anywhere really, and you see something, try to... I mean, I guess it depends on what it is, but if it looks like something big, try to resist the urge to like dig it up and pull it out of the ground.
Yeah,
if some shipwreck or something like that is exposing itself, really go find a ranger and let them know about it.
Yeah.
Because context is everything with this stuff. But also, if it's something small and ephemeral, I probably would pick it up and then I'd bring it to the visitor center because the sea is just going to take it away anyway.
Yeah, it will. But just make sure and like drop a point on it with your phone.
Exactly.
Modern smartphones all have the ability to like do GPS points.
Go to Google Maps, go to Apple Maps, drop a pin just by holding down your finger on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and take the point.
That way you know where you got it from. And, because finding one small little artifact is sometimes an indication that there's a lot more going on there. And it would take some work and some knowledgeable archaeologists to figure out if there is something bigger there and whether or not it's worth excavating. So, but you need to have the location information.
Yeah.
And you need to tell somebody about it. So
for sure.
Sounds like this National Seashore is very interested in preserving whatever history is exposed on their beaches. So, and I'm sure that any of our national seashores would be the same way.
Indeed. All right. Well, with that, we are done with this episode. So we're going to have 3 more articles for you next week. So come back and hear about ancient board games, a Roman market in the UK, another HS2 project, and Mas Edificios in Machu Picchu.
Oh, good job. Somebody's learning Spanish.
I said edificios, but that's probably not right.
Edificios.
Edificios. Feces? Fecisos? Edifices?
No, edificios.
Edificios.
Oh my God.
And Machu Picchu.
You are a lost cause in your terrible, terrible accent.
With that, we're out. Thanks for listening to The Archaeology Show. Feel free to comment and view the show notes on the website at www.archpodnet.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at ArchPodNet. Music for this show is called I Wish You Would Look from the band Sea Hero. Again, thanks for listening and have an awesome day. This episode was produced by Chris Webster from his RV traveling the United States, Tristan Boyle in Scotland, DigTech LLC, Cultural Media, and the Archaeology Podcast Network, and was edited by Chris Webster.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.
Thanks again for listening to this episode and for supporting the Archaeology Podcast Network. If you want these shows to keep going, consider becoming a member for just $7.99 US a month. That's cheaper than a venti quad eggnog latte. Go to archpodnet.com/members for more info.
People are driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. The hiring process can be slow and overwhelming. Simplify hiring with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform. With over 350 million global monthly visitors according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ12. That's Indeed.com/PODKATZ12. Terms and conditions apply.
Is your vehicle stopping like it should? Does it squeal or grind when you brake? Don't miss out on summer brake deals at O'Reilly Auto Parts.